Do you think you know your partner well enough? What if you found them in an intimate moment with someone else on YouTube? Can William and Emily's marriage survive this test of betrayal? Will they find a path to reconciliation, or is everything beyond redemption? Join us on this journey to uncover the truth behind a marriage torn by betrayal. Click subscribe to uncover the truth. I was up until around 10 p.m. watching YouTube on my laptop. To the right, there was a queue of clips waiting to play. One clip was of my favorite basketball player, James Brown, making a long-range throw at the last second. His long blonde hair was pulled back into a ponytail and he looked like a movie star for JTMVV, known James since college. He was a famous player on the team and had an apartment in my building. We saw each other quite often, especially in the off-season. When he turned pro, he was drafted by the Wizards, the team closest to my home in Maryland. 3 years ago he retired from the NBA and is now a game presenter for Wiz TV. I watched his videos because I indulged in some nostalgia. The next video had nothing to do with basketball. It was a news clip showing James Williamsing with a beautiful blonde at a club in Miami. The Williams was over and the blonde was my wife, Emily. The clip was filmed that evening and had just been published with the headline "Another Conquest." I watched until the end, about 3 minutes. The Williams ended and James and Emily were captured in a passionate full-body kiss. I downloaded the clip, picked up the phone and called Emily's cell phone. She didn't answer. After checking the time on the clip, I saw it was filmed about an hour earlier and had just been posted. Emily was supposed to be at a business meeting in Miami, a 4-day conference with several people from her advertising firm. One of these people was my good friend Mark Davis. I called him. "Hello, Mark. This is William Stone." I said, "I call myself Williamy." There was a pause. "Hey, Williamney, how are you?" "Not very good, Mark. Do you know where Emily is now?" Mark hesitated. "Man, this is crap. So she's with James." "Mark, I need information. This has taken over YouTube. My kids will see it in the morning and so will everyone else. I need to know if Chev DTM's been sleeping with him all this time." They stayed there for 3 days and were due back tomorrow afternoon. They met on Tuesday when we arrived, checked in, and they got to know each other. She comes to meetings during the day but doesn't eat with us. Her roommate says she wasn't there for a single night. I'm guessing she's with him. We all assume this. "I'm so sorry, Williamney." "Me too. Will you see her in the morning?" "She has to catch a plane." "I think I'll see her at the morning meeting, not at breakfast. She might be at the hotel, just in another room." "Okay. Tell her not to bother coming home if she was even going to. He also lives here." "I don't be DTM want to get into this with her. If she asks, Ivj team will tell her." "Fair, see you." Emily and I met in college when we were both in our 20s. We were in our junior year and taking math classes. On the first day I walked into class, looked around and saw the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. She just sat and drew in her notebook. There were only 5 other students there, all boys. But she was sitting alone. I sat down at the desk next to her. She looked at me and said, "Well, someone was smart enough to take this seat." I was already wondering if I smelled something funny. I looked at the other guys. They were all nerds and probably very shy. I wasn't a nerd even though I was in a math class. My height is 58, weight 150 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair. I don't look too bad. Women seemed okay with me if not taken aback. I used to be told that I have character. I answered, "You don't smell funny," although I have to move closer to really tell. She laughed. "They're all shy nerds, aren't you a botanist?" "No, I am Emily Moore." She extended her hand. We shook hands. "I'm Emily Stone. When we get married, you won't even have to change the monogram on your luggage and handkerchiefs." "How convenient." She smiled and the teacher entered the room. After class, Emily and I walked together to the student union building. She was a greenied blonde, 6 feet tall with an average figure, large breasts and just the beautiful face of a girl from the next street. When she smiled at me, I was truly captivated. I said, "I bet you were surprised when none of the guys in class sat next to you because every guy would like to sit next to you." "Thank you." I was surprised. "Mostly I have to fight off guys. You took advantage of my insecurities and now I really can't talk you out of it. I have another lesson in 20 minutes, but I'd like to invite you to dinner maybe tonight, since we study in the same class." We should get to know each other better. No dinner, sorry. I have a permanent man and he won't like it. I had to try. Well, I hope to see you again. Me too. I like you. At least we'll see each other in class. We saw each other in class twice a week. The subject was difficult and I had to work hard. One day I asked her a question about some problem, and she explained everything to me. After class, I asked her if she had any problems with the course. No, I'm good at mathematics and I need to take it for my chemistry major, but I spend a lot of time on it. Maybe you could give me some advice. What is this? A joke? I told you I have a boyfriend. No, I respect that. I just need help. We can sit in a diner and go over subjects as if you were my tutor. Fine, diner at 4, agreed. During our meetings at the diner, I got to know Emily much better. We hit it off talking about many other things, not just mathematics. One day, a large guy approached our table, on which books were laid out. Emily looked up at him and smiled. Her killer smile, Williamney. This is my boyfriend, Rashad. This is Williamney from my math class. I stood up and we shook hands. Rashad was a black man with a medium build, perhaps 58 in tall and weighing 220 pounds. He sat down next to Emily. We closed our math books and Rashad wanted to know why I was taking this class with Emily and all those nerds. I need an upper-level mathematics course for my chemistry major. This will also help me in programming. The three of us then started discussing why some majors required outside courses that didn't seem to fit. The discussion was interesting. Rashad was a smart guy. I asked about his specialization, physical training. I play hockey but want to teach high school. Unless I can make money from hockey, I could become a physical education teacher. Good plan. Better than M. Chemists are actually hired as well as programmers. I just don't know who exactly. What about you, Emily? I want to do business. I'm studying business. I like the idea of making money. As the semester went on, I saw more and more of Emily. I had an off-campus apartment and one day I invited her and Rashad to dinner. He also invited his neighbor, Stephanie, a high school graduate and simply a beauty. She and I had a friends with benefits type of relationship. Dinner went quite well. I made fish stew, spinach salad, and we ate cookies and ice cream. The women drank wine. Rashad and I drank beer. Emily and Rashad left around midnight after we played some bridge. Surprisingly, all four of them liked the game. There was real competition even though none of us had played as a pair before. Rashad and Stephanie were one team. Emily and I were another. It turned out that Emily was into some strange bidding systems and I adopted it gradually. We pulled away and won. Stephanie stayed the night. She was attractive and passionate, but we both knew that being sex buddies was all we were going to be. She had a boyfriend in her hometown. I never asked her what he thought of us. That evening was somewhat fateful because Emily asked me to play in a backup bridge tournament at the army base. I agreed. Meanwhile, Stephanie happened to have Rashad's phone number. She probably got it at the dinner, but unnoticed I saw them together about 2 days after dinner. They walked across campus toward our building. I followed them for a short distance. They went inside and I followed them in. They were just entering the elevator. She lived on the 4th floor. The elevator stopped there. So what should I do? The bridge tournament was on Friday, 2 days later. I just went to my room and relaxed near the window, reading and observing what was happening. About 2 hours later, he came out the front door. Rashad. I quickly walked to Stephanie's door and knocked. She shouted something and didn't open it right away. She looked flushed and was wearing flip-flops and a tight dress. No brah, hi Steph, don't need company, not now, Williamney. Oh damn, Williamney, you saw it all the way. You came here. You've seen, yeah, well, did you have fun? Maybe it's mean on Rashad's part. I would feel awkward about it, but I don't feel awkward now. I feel great. Sorry, don't worry. I'm thinking about what to do in this situation. I just hope you don't ruin the relationship between Emily and Rashad. He's just fun for me, just like you. Well, not even as much as you. If you were in Emily's situation, would you want to know that Rashad did something wrong? Yes, me too. The bridge tournament was a lot of fun. The army team was very good at cards, but Emily and I took 3rd place out of 20 on our side. Not bad. She said we got points. Whatever that means. As we walked to my car, She asked me, why didn't you tell me about Rashad and Steph? He did not decide. How did you know? Steph told Rashad that you know everything. Then he initiated a discussion about it. Sorry, curiosity took over and I saw them what happened during the conversation. We decided to cool relations for a few weeks. Let's see how we feel. Oh, okay, William Nee, I want you to take me to your place if you want, of course. Oh, I want to. I drove, perhaps not as carefully as usual, toward the building. I parked and we quickly walked into the apartment. When the door was closed, Emily kissed me passionately, a slow, hot kiss. She moved her body back and forth against mine. I pressed my excited manhood into her stomach. She pulled away, grabbed me and pulled me into the bedroom. I tore off my shirt and pants, including my underwear. Emily was already without a dress, without sandals, only in panties. I knelt down and slowly pulled them down and took them off. Sex with Emily was amazing. I brought her to climax twice, and the third time she reached the finish line with me. Oh God, Williamie. Oh my God. I believed her. I always thought that she and I were right for each other. The size of my manhood in pants is not very large, just average. Well, maybe a little larger than I would expect for my size. I was thinking about how to satisfy a woman, and I had some success, including this night. Emily rested for a while and then began to excite my manhood, very sensitive. I answered her the same. It worked very well. She reached a strong climax. I immediately followed her. We lay there for 20 minutes, gently caressing each other. I stood up to empty my bladder. She followed me shower. She asked in a sexy voice. We took a long shower where I pressed her against the smooth wall and had her. Then we washed ourselves. We returned to bed and fell asleep. In the morning, I got up and brushed my teeth. Emily came in just as I was finishing. I gave her a spare toothbrush after getting rid of my morning breath. We took care of my morning excitement at breakfast. Emily asked, am I as good as Stephanie? Am I as good as Rashad? We stared at each other, then she grinned. He's bigger, but you're better. Steph is very good, but you're fantastic. From that day we were with each other. Emily practically moved in with me. Rashad was against it, but he couldn't do anything either way. It didn't take him long to find the other main one. He also visited Stephanie often during his senior year, moved into this building and also lived on the 4th floor. Sometimes I saw him with Stephanie. He didn't move in with her, but they were often seen coming and going together. We said hi and bye until one day Steph invited us over for dessert. Was there too. We had a pleasant evening. I thought was polite and smart and perhaps a little too considerate of Emily. Perhaps Steph felt the same way, since we were no longer invited. Emily and I got married at age 22, right out of college. I got a job in the government in the Pentagon as a programmer. Emily found a job at a public relations firm. She mainly did advertising for companies. Advertising was supposed to influence the government, senators, congressmen, and agency representatives. I inherited a house from my grandfather not far from work. It was rented out and the lease had expired. We moved into it. The house had 3 bedrooms, a large kitchen, a garage converted into space, and a finished basement. That's what needed to be worked on. I did this job with the help of one of my high school friends who had a construction business in Virginia. Emily became pregnant, and at age 24 we had twin daughters, Betsy and Linda. They're not identical, but they're just a pain in the ass. Emily took a year off and I cut back on my work to give the twins the attention they needed. At the end of that year I switched to contract status, which meant I could work from home. Emily returned to work part-time when the girls turned 4. She went full-time. By that time, I had established a daily routine with them, and work as a contractor was going very well. I made more money, but without benefits. Emily's work became increasingly intense, largely because she allowed it to. She had driven and achieved a lot. My work depended more on creativity. Some of this work went to the government, but something was directly for me. I had 2 new ideas for systems that I thought could be profitable. I've been fiddling with them for quite some time. Emily made good money at the age of 14. The girls entered primary school. I was 37 and in good shape. I ran and played table tennis. I know it doesn't sound too onerous. Try it yourself sometime against good players. Before I saw Emily on video with, I would have said that our sex life was very enjoyable, at least for me. On the other hand, we had been together for 17 years. I didn't think we were stale, but I think Emily believed it. I looked up where lived, about 3 mil north of us. I was wondering if what I saw in Miami was something new or if it had been going on for a long time. I also asked myself some other questions. I asked the girls to do a DNA smear and I did it myself. This was the day after I informed them about the YouTube video. I felt I had to do this to protect them from being ambushed at school. It was Friday and they had to go to school. They had tests and group classes. At 10:00 a.m. Emily called. I saw it was her and let it go to voicemail. Williamney. Pick up the phone, Williamney. Please, Williamney. I love you. I made a mistake. I'll be back this afternoon. Oh damn, you could hear her sobbing. One of the improvements I made to the house was an electronic entry system. I changed the code. The converted garage lay idle. It was furnished. I carried Emily's clothes and other necessary things there. I just put everything there. My mother called, and so did Emily's mother. Everyone wanted to know what I would do. I didn't know, and I told them so. I opened Emily's Gmail account and scrolled through a month's worth of emails, old and new. I checked the trash can, no contact with. There were a few emails about work and a conference. 1 or 2 gave some kind of tip, but only from a guy from her work who was also going to Miami. Emily's plane was scheduled to land at noon. I didn't answer any of her calls. I asked a friend to go to the airport to keep an eye on who was getting off the plane and the whole situation. He saw Emily go out with her work contingent. She looked around. He was filming a video on his phone and went to get her luggage. He remained at the exit 5 minutes after the rest of the people had disembarked. Came out. He also looked around and went toward the baggage claim. My friend followed him. Emily held her suitcase and looked around. She saw, turned and left. Took his suitcase and went outside. Emily was waiting for a taxi. Walked up to her and spoke. She shook her head, refusing. A taxi arrived and the dispatcher put them both in it. My friend sent me a video. 20 minutes later, the taxi arrived at the house. There was only Emily in it. She was rushing around. When she discovered that her code didn't work, she knocked and rang the bell. I opened the door. She burst into tears. I'm so sorry, Williamney. I just never could have imagined what a mess it was. You don't live here, Emily. Your stuff is in the garage until you find a place for yourself. Maybe you better go to your parents' house. Oh, Williamney. I have nothing with him. I love you. Openly cockled at me, made me a laughingstock. The girls at school. God knows what they're going through. You are an evil. Get out of my sight. Her face fell staggering. She walked away. She sat down on a chair on the lawn and cried. Our neighbor, Mrs. John, came out into the street, came over and they talked. Emily went to her house. I called Emily's mother and told her that Emily was in the neighborhood and could use some support. Ellen. Her mother was not very responsive, but she said she would be there in an hour. I sat down in the kitchen and drank coffee. I tried to imagine what could happen now. Nothing worked for me. The night before, I called an attorney I knew and was referred to, a family law attorney, Joan Ellis. I called Miss Ellis' office and made an appointment for the following Monday. Mr. Martin, I must tell you that although what you tell me as your lawyer is confidential, if I know in advance that you are about to commit a violent crime, I may have to report it. Joan, you will never have such knowledge. Thanks for saying that I signed an agreement with her and paid the fee, telling her to have the documents ready as soon as possible. When I got home, it was already noon. My father Leland called. Hello. How are you doing today? Fine, I just came from a lawyer. Oh, hurry up. And what did he say? We discussed what would happen in the event of a divorce. Williamney, you need to hold off on this. Do not rush. The decision is really important and you shouldn't make it in a hurry. Dad, as soon as Emily let that bastard screw her, she was history. The fact that she did it over and over again makes it even worse. But once is enough. Your mother thinks she hurt you so much that there is no hope. I think she might be right, but still I want you to slow down. At least once Emily should have a chance to explain everything. What do you think she could say? That would make me change my mind. There was no answer for some time and then, okay, I can't think of anything, which is what needs to be proven. We discussed the girls' moods and their emotions. Linda was very sad and moping. Betsy was angry and had difficulty controlling herself. Mom works with both of them, telling them that they are not losing their parents, that they will always have both parents. We took our leave. The home phone rang. It doesn't have caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. It was Emily. Williamney, if you are here, please pick up the phone. I need to talk to you, Williamney. I need this, please. I screwed up and I know it. You're the only one I know that I can talk to about anything serious. And will I lose you? No, please, I know how angry. You must be confused. I'm really sorry. There was a lot of sobbing and she hung up while she was saying this. I cried and then went down again. This time I wore gloves. It still hurt and I hit and kicked the bag until I was exhausted. I went upstairs and took a shower. I think some guys get drunk in these situations, but I use a bag or run. I decided to think about how to ruin Larry. I had one thing that kept coming to my mind: the gun that was found. I have owned 2 registered pistols, a .45 caliber revolver ver and a .4 caliber S&W pistol. But one day while jogging, I saw a sparkle in the tall grass. It turned out to be a Taurus self-loading pistol 380. I took it for myself. It was charged and working. I cleaned it, and as I did so, I noticed that the serial number had been erased, which meant the gun was illegal, and still I kept it. One day I took it to the shooting range and it seemed to shoot accurately. I kept thinking about how I could shoot Larry with it, but I had girls and I would never want to end up behind bars, especially because of this idiot. I pushed these thoughts aside. I felt that now was not the time for Emily and I to talk. I knew that sooner or later we would have to talk face to face, but now the thought of meeting her made me almost feel ill. I was sitting in the house alone. A feeling of deep despair came over me. It was as if they had thrown a heavy blanket over me to the sofa. It was difficult to breathe. Suddenly fear gripped me and I quickly jumped up from the sofa. If someone had seen me, then they most likely would have decided that I was completely crazy. I knew I had to move and went for a brisk walk. It led me to Larry's house. I didn't linger there, but noted that there seemed to be very little security. The house was large, new, close to the street. There was a basketball hoop in the driveway. There was no car, but there was a large garage behind it. I walked past it, made a loop, and walked past it again, taking a few photos with my phone. Next, I walked past Emily's parents' house further north. Their cars were parked at the entrance. Emily's car was still in our garage. I hurried on, went into the store and bought a prepaid cell phone and a Diet Pepsi. Eventually, I returned to my home. It was 3:00 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. I went into the house and made myself a sandwich, but I probably ate 3 SLI slices. As soon as I stopped moving, the feeling of suffering came over me again. I took out the 380 and drove out of town, where my friend has a couple of hectares of land with an open shooting range. There was no one there. He and his family were in Florida. I shot 2 boxes of cartridges from the pistol. The gun is inexpensive but functional and a little heavier than a good gun would be. On the way home, I stopped at the pharmacy and bought 2 neoprene thigh wraps. Returning home, I constructed a body bandage that held the 380 caliber in the lumbar region. I tried running with it and everything was fine. My cell phone was off all day and I didn't respond to emails. I turned it on. There were 11 voicemails, 20 or so text messages from family, colleagues and friends, and numerous emails. The voicemails were from Emily, Ellen, and my mom. They all said pretty much the same thing. Please contact us. We need to talk. The text messages were very similar. Some of them were from my father and 2 were from Emily's father, Milt, one just a few minutes ago. The messages from Milt were not like the others in the first. He apologized for Emily's actions and for failing to raise a responsible daughter. In the second, he asked if I wanted to talk to him away from women. I called him and the call went to voicemail. I didn't leave any message, but 3 minutes later he called back. Williamney, I needed to go for a walk to free myself. What's happened? I saw you wanted to talk, Milt. Can we meet somewhere? How about Raymond Park near the Hops Court? Okay, in about 30 minutes it'll do. I put on my jeans and put the .380 in my pocket, in case I saw Larry, who lived a half-mile from that park. I drove for about 10 minutes just walking past Larry's house. I was in the park early, as was Milt. It's a small park and there aren't many people there. We shook hands and sat down on a bench to the side of the court. Milt said, I wanted to make sure you were okay. From what Ellen and your mom said, I was worried. I'm not okay, Milt. I feel worse than ever before. That's how I feel. Well, I can remember how my mother died. Took me a year to get back to normal. I just kept working day after day. This is what you should do too. Yes, it's easy to say, but damn hard to do, and only one day passed. If it makes you feel any better. Emily is almost catatonic. She hasn't eaten since she came to our house, and she probably said 3 sentences. We are thinking about calling her for help. Actually, you look a lot better than her. This is probably due to guilt. She has it, but you don't. I'm sorry to hear that, Milt, because the twins will need their mother. I don't understand why she is so amazed. Because she did everything openly. Did you really think that no one would know that? I wouldn't know. Cannot believe it. Sooner or later, even without YouTube, one of her employees, some of them might be my friends, would have caught wind of it. I don't think she was thinking straight at all. I think she may have suddenly found herself in a strange situation, away from her family and being stalked by a celebrity. So she succumbed to feelings that in a normal situation she would have suppressed. Here's what I can take away from it. You're so smart, Milt. But I think she had a thing for Larry since college and thought she could have her cake. And what are you going to do? It's very likely that I will divorce her now. I can't even think about her without anger and hostility. I hope I don't get sick because of all this. Look, I know everyone else is telling you to wait to decide something. I just can't understand how you can go back to any semblance of a family life with her. Yes, the case is lost. I'm going to wait, but not for long. You need to prepare her. If she is as bad as you say, I'll try, and we parted. I was walking back to my car parked on a nearby street when Larry dribbled a basketball up the intersecting street toward the court. I saw him and reached for my gun. Milt, driving towards him, saw him and pressed the horn. Larry got scared and lost the ball as it rolled down the street. He jumped after it without looking an idiot. It wasn't Milt who hit him. A car traveling in the other direction, perhaps a little fast, was blocked by Milt's car, and he was hit by another car, some kind of SUV. Before the driver could brake, Larry went over the hood and windshield, flew into the air and fell onto the street. Milt continued driving. I ran up to Larry at the moment he was alive and conscious. I looked at him. The SUV driver ran up. He shouted that he had already called 911. We were not far from the hospital, about 4 blocks. Larry recognized me. He tried to say something, but nothing came out. I watched as he slowly faded away. Paramedics arrived about 2 minutes later. They worked as hard as they could, but to no avail, and was gone, and I felt betrayed. The police arrived. I was a little nervous because even though I had a concealed car permit, the gun was illegal, but I answered the questions, gave my name and address, and was released without objection. The driver of the SUV, an elderly man, was upset. I told him and the police that there was nothing he could do. Larry simply rushed after the rolling ball at the wrong moment. About an hour later I drove home, threw out the 380 and drove to Milt's house. I knew Emily was there, but I needed to discuss a fatal traffic accident with Milt. I drove up to the house and rang the bell. Ellen opened it. She saw that I was in an emotionally charged state, and I was really in an emotional state in euphoria. Well, at least in great joy. I knew that I had probably avoided being killed. Pure luck. But I had to see Milt. I turned to Ellen. Is Milt here? I need to discuss something with him. She turned and shouted, Milt, don't you want to see Emily? No, too early. Milt went downstairs. I waved to him and we left. Milt is dead. Damn, did you kill him? I saw you had a gun. God, Williamney, but he didn't look the way he should have. If he was truly upset, I didn't kill him. He got hit by a car after you honked at him. He missed his basketball and ran outside after it. Like a child. I saw him die. I couldn't help myself and smiled. Marty, it's clear an accident. God works in mysterious ways. I'll leave it to you or Ellen to tell Emily that her boyfriend died. He's not her boyfriend, but we'll let her know. I guess it'll be all over the news. Certainly, how is she also not good? On the contrary, you look upbeat. I even felt deceived when he died. But then I saw this as a saving grace. Willie Amy. I want to save my daughter. I think she's heading into the abyss. I know she screwed up, but I love her and I want her to have a life. Therefore, I ask you, if you see a way, at least do not interfere. Maybe later you can lend a helping hand. It's a difficult request, but I ask Milt. I have to think about this. If we talk to her too soon, I won't be able to help. You have to keep her away from me. Let me think it over. I'll try to find a way out. Congratulations on escaping murder. We laughed and returned to the house. I left by car that night. I slept. The girls called me and we had a good talk. Then I just went to bed on Sunday. I became depressed again. It was a nice day and I had nothing better to do than think about the state of my marriage. No matter what Milt said, I knew Emily and I could never be together again. This made me sad, but it is true. I did another long run, walked down to the shopping center along the river and returned home. I showered and went to see my parents and kids for a Sunday picnic. The twins were in a better mood. They had a conference call with Emily, who must have perked up because she was encouraging them. I've wondered this. Mom said there was no mention of Emily's infidelity or Larry's death, only talk about school. Emily told the girls she would see them as soon as she got better. I had a good time with my parents and girls while they were in the pool. I told my parents that I saw get hit and die. They were shocked. My father said, "You didn't have anything to do with it. You know? No, it's a coincidence. I was in that park with Mill talking. He just drove off and Larry got hit. He rushed outside to get his ball fine. Well, I can't say I'm sorry. May the Lord have mercy on his soul." We changed the subject. Joan Ellis called me on Monday. First, I wanted to know how I felt about Larry's death. She didn't know I was there. My name was not published. I told her the whole story and she was amazed, maybe even a little suspicious. I know that if I were her, I would be suspicious too. She then said that the documents would be ready on Wednesday and asked me to let her know when I wanted them to be served. I told her to wait a little because Emily was in bad shape. I made a promise of sorts to Milt. The kids decided to go to school, even though S. death and his outburst the week before was big news. I was left alone and decided to working half a day for the army for 2 or 3 hours. I went about my business, then picked up the girls from school after their extra classes. We ate pizza. It was something I could make myself and they loved my pizza. We had a good evening, but they both asked before going to bed whether their mother would be back. I answered this question honestly. I don't think we will have the same agreements as before. I can't say what the future will bring, but I don't see us going back to the way things were. Something else awaits us, but we both will always love you both. Milt called on Tuesday. Ellen also called. They wanted to meet. I said I would come to Starbucks as we grabbed our drinks. Milt said he had contacted a marriage counselor and asked me to get involved with Emily. Ellen said that if we divorce on the grounds of adultery, the court will most likely still order counseling. Okay, I said, but I won't lie, if we really get into this and go deep, I still don't see it helping her. Ellen said, we're not asking you to lie. Just move slowly. Listen to the psychologist. Talk to Emily, otherwise I think she will have big problems. S accident seemed to scare her. We didn't tell her you were there. The first session was scheduled for the following Monday at 10:00 a.m. I arrived promptly at 10, not wanting to wait in the same room as Emily. The consultant was Sylvia Price, a psychologist and certified marriage and family counselor. This is a woman of about 50, slightly plump but pleasant. She led us into her office. Until this moment, Emily and I had not spoken. She looked unwell, was pale, and constantly rubbed her hands. Dr. Price informed us of the nature of her practice, which includes working with cases of adultery. She asked me what my goal was in counseling. I would like to move forward in life. I hope to remain a good father to my children, but I do not believe that reconciliation in marriage is possible. Emily, your goals. I want my old life back. It may not happen, but I would like to remain William's wife, even if things don't have to be the same. Dr. Price looked at each of us as I understand the situation. Emily went to Miami for a work conference where she met a man she knew from university and they spent several nights together. The man was well known and the two were publicly linked. Is that why we are here? Emily said yes, I didn't believe that my relationship in Miami would become public knowledge. I thought it would only be for the time I was away from my family. Dr. Price asked if that's true. Why did you go Williamsing with Mr. Brown? You must have known that he was a famous person. I thought it would be fun. It was not near the hotel. Actually, it was fun, but you knew that your colleague would find out about your relationship, and of course you understood that Williamy would soon find out about it, perhaps not as quickly as he did in reality. Let's leave that aside for now. Fine, Williamy. Could you explain why you are so sure that the marriage is over? I looked straight at Emily, because Emily was the only person in this world that I loved and trusted the most. So when I saw that she was ready to betray me so easily and openly, I was devastated. My grandparents died in an accident. I felt bad and in pain for a long time, but that doesn't compare to this. Nothing does. I would never ever put myself in a position to be crushed like that. If Emily could do this to me, then anyone could do it. I could never give her or anyone that kind of power again. Emily was openly sobbing. As I said this, I wanted to say that I would never trust her. How do you feel seeing her in this state? I'm just sad and also very angry. It was so blatantly cruel to me and to our children too, even if it was done out of stupidity, without the desire to cause pain. It was so bad. And for what? 3 nights with some stud you wanted in college. I looked straight at her. When I asked this, Emily sobbed. No, I don't know why I did it. Dr. Price said, calm down, Emily. Is it true that you had sexual feelings for Mr. Brown when you were in college? Yes, he was a big, handsome, and famous guy. He then pestered me, but I was with Williamy and I said no. I asked then, why did you say yes? In Miami. For several months leading up to this, I felt a little out of touch. We've all been so busy. I was excited to spend a few days in Miami and thought it might rejuvenate me. But as soon as I got there, I saw James. He hugged me tightly and I realized that I would not push him away if he wanted me. Everything was so fast. I can't understand it. We had great sex night before you left, didn't we? Or were you pretending? No, it was all for real. It made me tingle the entire flight. Crap. I feel so bad. Emily was crying again. My tears flowed too, but my boiling anger also returned. I didn't believe I could hold it back, so I got up and went to the outer office. I was about to hit the furniture when Dr. Price came out. Why don't you go down to the men's room for a minute? I can talk to Emily alone. Then I can talk privately with you. That's exactly what I did. The two of them spent about 15 minutes together. Emily came out no longer crying. Sorry, Williamy. On that note, she left. Dr. Price asked me, Williamy, how do you feel about Mr. Brown's death? You know, I was there and saw him die. I was happy that he died. I could have killed him myself, but he was shot down first. I think it's ugly, but it's true. And now the same thing, maybe even worse. This guy ruined my whole life because of some. I felt cheated that I couldn't kill him. Why does Emily's adventure with Larry mean the destruction of your entire life? I was a family man. Nothing more. What I said about betrayal. I will never get over it. I can't imagine meeting anyone. I can trust Emily just broke it, but only a few days have passed. Let me ask you, have you thought about how good the sex was between Emily and Larry? Yes, I saw on YouTube that they absolutely lusted after each other. And how did you feel about it? Betrayal. This was the worst possible betrayal. Emily, no matter what happens, she will always be able to remember her fantastic sex-soaked affair. If we had stayed married, I would have always believed that she was thinking about him while we had sex. You know, I want to destroy this memory for her, and I fully intend to do so. This is the least I can do. Tough position. This is a woman you deeply loved in the past. I really loved her deeply, which is why it hurts me so much. She gutted me. This ended the session. She asked me to think about what living arrangements could be made if we separated. I was given the task of presenting the facts about Miami and why I was so weak. I also outlined how reconciliation could happen between Williamy and me before going to Miami. I felt out of place, not enjoying the things I used to love. Work had become a routine. Family life was also routine. This had been going on for several months now. I had a vague feeling of stagnation. I was looking forward to going to Miami. One guy at work, Brady Bean, had been harassing me ever since he transferred to our office. I easily pushed him away for months, treating him like a buffoon. This did not discourage him. He was not a genius, but he was good look and had a cheerful disposition. I was not offended when he continued to pursue me. When we realized that we would both go to Miami, he began to play on this as an opportunity to sleep without any reproaches. I let him know that I was not interested, but I knew that I would not leave him indifferent and was mattered. I thought about his scenario, but I would never have sex with him too risky, even if he were super attractive, which he wasn't. But at our hotel when we were checking in, James appeared. He was definitely super attractive. He hugged me quite energetically and I was immediately taken aback. I realized that he could get me in Miami if he went for it. He also understood this because he immediately went for it. He took me by the hand, took me aside for a minute and asked if Williamney was with me. When I said no, he said he had a hotel room and would be there until Friday. He just said that he wants me and knows that I want him. I agreed to go to dinner with him. I can't fully explain why I became such an easy target of Williamney, and I had great sex the night before. I was still on edge and so was James. It's not close to home, free passage. I thought I never once thought about Williamney and what might happen if he found out. I cheated at least. I can't remember thinking about it, but I should have. If I had met James in Virginia, I'm sure I could have turned him down. But I told myself that for a few days I found myself in another world. Dinner. James and I both knew we would go straight back to his room. We skipped dessert as soon as the door closed behind us. James pulled me close, kissed me, and we were off to the races. We both just took off our clothes. I didn't think about anything except his beautiful body. We were both excited. There was no foreplay. He carried me to his bed and threw me on it, and he had me long and hard. After some time, having experienced numerous climaxes, I felt him reach the finish line. I lost consciousness. He woke me up by kissing me. We moved on to the second round. This continued the next morning. I missed breakfast with the team and barely made it to the meeting. I was sexually satisfied and I was sure they all knew it, getting a few sideways glances, but there were no direct comments. I thought that one of them might called Williamney, but I dismissed the thought they don't know anything. They just guessed sex with James was the best experience of my life. I think it was a combination of me being away from home and not having to rush home to my family and his muscular smooth body. Besides, he seemed to want me as much as I wanted him. He could have had almost any woman, but he was with me. My lust for him was completely irresistible. After a meeting at work, I called him. We went straight to his room, had sex for 2 hours, then ordered room service. Then we did it some more. The morning brought the same sidelong glances. I was a little worried, but I met James in his room at 5:00 p.m. and we stayed in bed until 8. The sex was still amazing, but it was no longer as mind-blowing as on the first night or the second one. They brought us food to our room and then he told me to dress more decently. We go Williamsing. This is what we did. That's how I got on YouTube. I recently watched our video on YouTube. Already knowing that Williamney had watched it that same evening, I understood what he could see. He would see his loving wife openly, publicly lusting after another man. After finishing the Williams, we returned to the hotel and had sex again the next morning. I had a flight when I woke up. James and I had sex, took a shower and got dressed. I had breakfast in his room, then returned to mine to pack my things. My roommate, Cindy, said I was Williamsing on YouTube and said it was spicy. I was seized with horror, from which I almost died. I realized that I was finished and then I met Mark Davis, Williamney's good friend. When we got on the bus to go to the airport, I asked him if Williamney had called while I was in Miami. Williamney and I did not contact each other. I didn't check my phone, but it turned out that he called every evening and went to voicemail. Mark told me that Williamney had seen me Williams on YouTube and that he knew that I spent every night with James. I was speechless. The flight home was terrible. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I was sitting by the window and an unfamiliar guy was sitting in the next seat. I knew James was on the flight, but I didn't see him. I got off the flight, but I still didn't see James. When I got my luggage, he came up to me and asked if I was going to be okay. I said it would probably never be good again. He looked depressed. I didn't think about the fact that Williamney would pick me up and I stood in line for a taxi. When I got into the taxi, the dispatcher put James in it too. We went to places located close to each other in the taxi. James said that he was sorry he did that to YouTube. He just didn't think of it. I said I didn't really want to talk and asked the taxi driver to drop James off first. I went home and couldn't get into the house. When Williamie opened the door, I saw how devastated and angry he was, and I ran away. Since then I have lived with my parents. I am in a state of almost complete stupor. Betsy pushed me away, and how could I blame her? We talked on the phone. This was better. Took me an hour to get ready for this. Now I go to consultations. After that first session, I thought my marriage was over, clearly influenced by Williamie's explanation of his feelings. Now I can't figure out how to deal with his anger and grief, and I don't understand how I can ask him for trust again. I don't deserve him, and also Larry. He is dead. He was hit by a car when my mother told me about this. I was so sorry when we were in the T-taxi. He asked me to call him to tell the truth. I could have called, but he is no longer there. Because of this, I feel another emptiness. If I ever had sex with a man again, I was sure I would remember sex with Larry, only now maybe not. I can't get rid of the feeling that if I had refused him, he would still be alive. This doesn't make sense, but it does. I'm completely screwed. Marty. Again, everything is getting better at home. School was difficult for the twins, but not impossible. Betsy is still angry and Linda misses her mother. However, I think Betsy too. They use teleconferencing every evening. Emily looks a little better, but it's hard to tell from the short call time. Our second consultation was similar to the first, except that we each had an individual session before the session together. Dr. Price said, "Have you thought about what could make your reconciliation possible?" Yes, but I couldn't think of anything. Sorry. Do you think if you understood why Emily got involved with Larry, you could work on trusting her? If you knew what caused it, maybe you could figure out how to stop it. This is stupidity, pardon the expression. I think she just wanted sex with a guy and thought she could do it without consequences. Isn't that what she said? But I didn't believe her. I believed her about lusting after Larry, but I believe she wanted to get caught. Why? Good question. Maybe ask her doc. This won't end with our reconciliation anyway. It is impossible to overcome senseless betrayal because she thought she could get away with. It cannot be overcome. What if she wanted to be caught somehow, and this could be the worst of all? This would mean that she simply wanted to leave the family away from me, away from her life. I wanted drama. You know, if Larry were alive, I think she would be with him now. Our session together began and ended with her asking for forgiveness. I didn't buy it, and even if she truly apologized, even if she could truly explain her actions, I couldn't be with her. It's like being next to a time bomb. I asked the lawyer to serve the papers. Emily today was served with divorce papers. I continue to write in this journal because it may lead to some insight in the future. In our consultation this week, I saw that Williamie was less angry. He seemed calmer. This was a sign to me that we were done. I've read about this, about the stages of grief. One of the last is acceptance. Williamie accepted the fact that we were getting divorced and that my affair was the end of the marriage. The papers didn't surprise me. I'll have to contact a lawyer. In the last week, I have returned to work. The reception at work from colleagues was icy. Everyone knew that I had become a who had ruined family life. Even Brady Bean left me, but it's his loss. He could have succeeded. I bet hell starts soon, since he knows him. The lawyer said that I should ask for joint custody of the girls. He said that since Williamie already owned the house when we got married, he would stay in it for several years. He was the most important parent of the house, so I could hope the girls would live week by week if I lived in their school area, or maybe alternating days off. It's all so depressing. I told the lawyer that I was confessing to cheating in Miami and asked him to hurry up the process. I don't need money from Williamie. It's obvious that he doesn't want money from me either. Savings should be divided 50-50 without noise and fuss. So many years down the drain, and all I have left are shitty memories. But I did better than Larry. I realized that I didn't feel sorry for him. I know that I'm no less to blame, but he also has his share in this. He didn't have to have sex with me. He could have anyone. Why me? I'll never know. Dr. Price suggested that my Williamsing open sexual behavior and my complete inability to hide my infidelity might mean that I wanted to start a new, more exciting life, but I believe this is not true. She said Williamney thought I wanted to be caught and then be free. Well, now I'm free and I hate it. I have no appetite. No appetite for sex. I don't go to bars. I've turned down Brady Bean multiple times and I don't even feel tempted. But it would be so simple. I wonder how long this malaise will last. Marty, today the divorce took place. I received primary custody of the twins, who will live in the same house as always. Emily will have them every other weekend, 2 weeks in the summer, and at Thanksgiving or Christmas I think they will have 2 gifts for each holiday. At Christmas, maybe more. The final settlement was the same as we had been doing for the past 6 months, as Emily had gotten an apartment about 2 miles away. I told Milt and Ellen they could come over any time, and they do often, and I'm sure they see the girls at Emily's on the weekends. I haven't gone on dates. I have a few acquaintances. There are several divorced women who were in our circle of friends and 3 I went on dates with. I went to dinner or bowling with them. We moved back into the house for a week without the kids and were having sex. The sex is usually very good. I believe this applies to all of us, but I made it clear to all 3 that my recent experiences had scarred me and that there would be no permanence or exclusivity. They all know what happened. Everyone in our society knows, so they understand everything. I still think that 2 people think that someday I will overcome my fearfulness. I don't think so. This is a long journey and there's no reason to believe that it has an end point. The pain I went through, the pure agony of imagining Emily with that idiot will never leave me to this day when I think about it. She is still just as strong, although I try not to think about it. The twins adapted. Linda is good to Emily, but Betsy is not so easy. She holds grudges for a very long time and is very similar to me. Maybe this is very bad. I didn't discuss this with Emily, only with Ellen. Emily and I don't talk much. She knows that I don't want to talk to her. The less I see of her, the better. Seeing her is very painful. It must be avoided. Ellen says she worries about Emily, who has become something of a recluse. I don't often see her on the street, although we communicate in the same group and live not far from each other. I don't sympathize with her and most likely never will. I never understood why she did it, and I believe she probably doesn't understand it either. The best I can do is to chalk it up to a coincidence of events, and unlikely ones at that. Her vague discontent. The opportunity to go to Miami and, most importantly, meeting Larry. Any 2 of them probably wouldn't have powered it, and then all 3 happened and poof. The marriage is ruined. Dead-end golf course scene. 1 year later, Milt Moore played golf on Saturday. He played in the regular 4. However, on this day, one of the group members was replaced by his old school friend. This friend was Fred Johnson. They have known each other since school. Fred is an electrical engineer. While walking from the 9th platform, they had a personal conversation. They haven't talked about it yet, of course not by phone. Milt asked, "How are you coping these days?" Fred, "I'm fine because I agreed to try it myself. Just followed him all the way from his house. Everything was as you said. He always went to play on a Saturday afternoon if he was in town, and even after he retired, he wanted to play. I sympathized with him. I read about it in the Post. I couldn't believe it when he rushed into the street. This was such a big decision for me and it was accepted so quickly I just did it. If he hadn't done this, I might not have been able to turn to him. Your horn startled him, but I'm sure you were shocked after that. I know I was. It worked not only perfectly, but even more than perfectly marvelous. It's almost as if God intervened to protect Williamney. I was certainly shocked to see him die. I called 9011 and Marty was it Marty. He was right there. Why I thought if this works, he should see it for himself as some kind of closure. He later said he felt cheated. I knew he would kill this guy. Sooner or later he will do it. He had a gun with him then, and I wanted my granddaughters to have a normal father family. I knew that Emily well. She could do something rash if Marty was arrested and it would be her fault. But did he deserve to die? Hard to say, but Marty and the girl certainly deserve to live Emily too. The 2 old friends never spoke on this topic again. They walked down the aisle next to each other. An emotional storm is approaching. Subscribe to our channel and let us guide you through every twist and turn.